I would love to welcome everyone to this week's Citizens Climate Training Program. It's a weekly webinar of CCLs that provides CCL supporters like you and I with access to in-depth training opportunities on topics related to climate change and effective climate advocacy. I'm your host, Brett Cease, CCL's Vice President of Programs, and tonight's topic is all about CCL's electrification campaign and an overview of what we're gearing up for the whole month ahead in August. I'm going to give the overview in terms of our campaign goals, the support resources that we can find, materials that CCL has created to help facilitate thousands of conversations, and some of the recommended conversation starters, messaging guidance, you name it. We're here to think through that together. Throughout August, we as volunteers throughout the country are talking to people in our communities about electrifying our homes. And why, you might ask? Because we want everyone to know that there are cutting-edge clean energy options available right now, and there are ways that you have the chance to save money on them too. So thank you all so much for being here. I'll put the link to the slides one last time, and we'll get this show on the road with a little bit of a learning goal review. You know I can't do a good webinar without one of those. So if we've done our job well, you're going to be provided with the following 3 learning goals as we walk away here tonight. First and foremost, an overview of what we're planning to look ahead in the month of August forward to. We'll have the chance to walk through some of our recommendations for messaging, as well as the resources that are available to support you. And we want you to leave tonight feeling empowered with you and your local team, ready to get out there and engage in electrifying conversations. No pun intended. So with that, though, the following framework for our agenda is pretty straightforward. I'll start with a little background. We'll then transition to some ideas for recommendations on conversation starters and really why our conversations matter. We'll then transition to walking through a lot of the great resources that are out there for support for your group, as well as how we can put this all together with some additional support materials that might be available that you might not know about. But without further ado, though, let's talk about a little bit of background, right? So electrification is an alternative and a more accessible entry point for some of our community members and friends into climate change conversations. It starts people off on an empowered, active foot that can really ultimately lead to more climate action. And through a partnership this month ahead with both Work Money and Rewiring America, CCL is using our month of August to focus our organization's efforts on electrification, educating our communities about the available incentives, and encouraging all of the people who might be talking with to really think through the benefits that come with electrifying different appliances and engaging in weatherization, efficiency updates, improvements in their homes. We're going to have the chance to learn about Work Money, which is a call tool that basically can walk callers through, or texters, through the Inflation Reduction Act incentives using a hotline that we'll walk through. And we'll also make sure to encourage volunteers to log and hold electrification-specific conversations and direct people that they speak to more of these resources for more information. So overall, our goal for the month of August is to hold 3,000 electrification conversations across the country in our local communities, directing our audience to the resources that we have available. We want the tone and the overall feel for this campaign to feel encouraging, educational, lighthearted, energetic, if you will, animated. And again, we're targeting an audience of people that are cost conscious, that are eco-minded homeowners in the US. We have an amazing campaign page, and you'll note that a lot of the resources on that page really don't center on climate. Climate is an adjacent issue for this conversation and the campaign that we're engaging in this month. You can certainly get to that in your conversations, but we're not leading with it for a variety of reasons that we're about to walk through here. So first, a little bit more about the why. Here's a quote from Rewiring America's Guide to the Inflation Reduction Act. Strategic incentives make the transition to clean energy easy and financially smart. And as a lot of you on the call already know, Congress has made electrification more affordable. We're actually just about to celebrate the 2-year anniversary. A couple of years ago, Congress took a big step to make clean energy more accessible and affordable for all of us as everyday people. And that big step was a piece of legislation called the Inflation Reduction Act. Here's the catch, though. 2 years out, most folks don't even know about the bill still or how it can actually help and apply to their own lives and home. The Inflation Reduction Act included lots of financial incentives for home upgrades. You know that. And that means that thousands of dollars back in your pocket are available if you change an appliance for a heat pump version, if you install rooftop solar, if you make energy efficient improvements, you name it, electrification is a very localized issue, and people tend to trust their friends, their family, their community when it comes to making these kinds of investments. They look to the social proof of those closest to them first before engaging in further research or exploration. So our conversations throughout this next month together really have the opportunity to make a huge impact. We know that CCL has a policy agenda all about building electrification and efficiency, and now we have the chance with this campaign to help friends, family, and people in our communities understand the options that are available to them and the savings and costs that come with that. So, what are we emphasizing? Just like we had 3 central themes to remember or kind of help you stay grounded for our Climate Conversations campaign in April for Earth Month, you can think about the 3 frames that we are going to emphasize for Electrification Month as the following: performance, safety, and affordability. So let's actually jump into the chance to learn about a little bit more about how we might talk about each of these 3 in our conversations. So we know, let's start with safety. With fossil fuel appliances in our home, the air we breathe inside can often be dirtier than the air outside of them, and we might not even be aware of that. So electrifying helps ensure that our homes are safe rather than a safety hazard. We know that clean energy is cutting edge. It's an upgrade from the outdated fossil fuel options that many of us grew up and are used to and probably currently have in our homes. So electrification really is an opportunity to make our homes a safe haven rather than a safety hazard like we've highlighted. Another fun catchphrase is no flames, no fumes, no fuss. And we also know this, the performance piece. Electrified options perform better. They get the job faster, more efficiently. And a couple of conversation starters that you can highlight here, this one here on the performance piece, there are a bunch of clean energy options for your home that are already on the market. Have you ever heard of a heat pump, for example? Or you can insert whatever other appliance that you might feel most comfortable with. Or maybe you've already installed solar in your own home. Start there, right? Have an entry point in your conversations about the actual appliances that you've researched, that you've been thinking about, that you already have in your homes or that you're familiar from your neighborhood. On the performance side of things, we also know that it's important to think about that outdated appliances, often fossil fuel driven, tend to use energy less efficiently. When that then turns driving up your energy usage, and we can get into the affordability or the cost piece in a little bit. So one of the other key themes that we want to emphasize in our campaign this month is that when you electrify, your appliances generally will perform better, and those clean energy options right now, a lot of consumers might not be aware of all of the innovation and the expanded market across all of the issues and the areas that we'll talk through in tonight's training, as well as the rest of the trainings that we have this month. If you haven't gotten caught up to speed or have additional questions about your own homeowner applications and what might be available. But we're talking again about technologies from rooftop solar, induction stoves, heat pumps, solar water heaters, you name it. Looking around the room tonight, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but you can also put in the chat right now if you're most excited to have the kind of chance to think through where you might start with your conversation in that performance realm. So the other piece that we really want to emphasize, again, each of these are climate adjacent, is the importance of thinking about how electrification can also lead to affordability. Now, it's important to really start off up front here by saying we're not going to guarantee that everyone that electrifies will save money. But what we want to emphasize is that there are incentives available right now from the national level, and as more and more states stand up their grant programs, there'll even be rebates in addition to those national incentives to make any of these upgrades within reach for any income level. And there's actually specific incentives right now at the federal level that make sure that lower income earner families even come out more ahead and have the chance to qualify for additional incentives to make these within reach. So the key thing with affordability to emphasize is that your wallet will thank you for electrifying your home as well, not just your health, not just your kids. The incentives from the Inflation Reduction Act make this goal even more affordable than ever. So not to leave money on the table and taking advantage of these incentives is a really key emphasis. We want to make sure to really be able to think about tax breaks, what might be available. And you can see here one of these great questions as a conversation starter is, did you know electrification can save you money on your utility bills? And you can get tax breaks too. That's a great starting point. And I'd love to hear again in a little bit what each of you have found to be effective as you're talking electrification in the field. So those key themes, let's just say them one more time: performance, safety, and affordability, are great conversation starters, great places to kind of steer the conversation, especially as you do outreach or have conversation with your friends and family. And I'd love to know, especially given the wisdom of the room here gathered tonight, what do you use when you're opening up conversation with a new person? Let's just think about this as a scenario with strangers. How might you talk about performance features that come with electrification upgrades? Feel free to start putting those in the chat. We'll read those out loud. Think about what affordability features you emphasize in your own experience. Really talking about saving money in the long run with an investment that you've had, a noticeable decline in your cost for utility bill, you name it. What safety upgrades really have mattered to you and your family that you've seen if you've made and switched out a gas stove for an induction stove? You know, anything like this, would love to hear in the chat. Feel free to put what's working for you. I'm coming in here. Patsy shares heat pumps are 3 to 4 times more efficient than heating with oil or natural gas. Abe likes emphasizing an air heat pump that both heats and cools your home. Yeah, that dual benefit's huge. Pete here shares at tabling, I take a countertop induction hob powered by portable battery pack and show people how fast it boils water. I love that demonstration. I put a dollar bill between the pot and the hob to demonstrate that it doesn't get dangerously hot. These are great. Oh, this is great. Keep them coming here. Mark shares how healthy an induction stovetop is compared to a gas range. Abe shares if you don't have an air conditioner yet, get a heat pump for that dual benefit. Mark is highlighting that safety is easy to talk about with regard to induction stoves and emphasizing that personal experience is wonderful. Jay is sharing the importance of being able to do a series of open houses on improvements that you've done at your home, Jay, including a solar and battery backup in support of community-based nonprofits, and then using that to tie into the CCL message, including with local electeds and electrical co-op boards. That's the full package. From doing the tour to weaving in CCL with grass tops messengers. These are great examples. Thank you, Jay, for that. Tony's sharing about induction stoves being faster and more accurate as well. Mark is highlighting the affordability piece, energy bill going down since installing a heat pump and a heat pump water heater. On the performance front, thank you all for taking the time. Performance front, induction stoves, Pete shares, are usually more powerful than gas stoves and they heat up and cool down faster. Amen. But most important is precision. Induction stoves are adjustable within a 10 to 20 degree Fahrenheit increment, with even some to 5-degree increments. Well, if we have any top chefs here tonight, that's another wonderful feature that I've actually never thought about really leaning into. Thanks for that, Pete. Laura shares, I have a gas stove and would talk to people about safety. I'm considering trying a countertop oven and some induction hot plates for a month as an experiment. These are great. All right, Cooper at Quit Carbon, so glad to have you here. Heat pumps are not new technology. Did you know you already have one? Your fridge is a heat pump. Oh, I love that hook. That's a great one, Cooper. All right, so with that though, I am going to jump in to a little review of what's included. So you might be curious about, great, so we've got this goal, we've got these 3 themes of what to talk about. How are we actually going to translate that then to making it work in the field? Well, the first thing that we wanted to highlight with is just the amazing resource that we have with Work Money. I'll have the chance here to demo actually what a text conversation with them on my own phone is like in a bit. I'm just going to mute them just so that we don't have any interruptions. But basically, if you go and I put this number in the chat to 833-975-6639, you can either call or text them. If you call them, you should know that it's basically available 7 to 7. They're not available, depending on your time zone, not available kind of late at night, but they are available for the whole span of the day. And basically, Work Money is just an amazing outfit that are here to help us take advantage of federal incentives. They're also available to kind of walk through a whole bunch of other energy or bill lowering opportunities, from on your grocery bill to prescription drugs, you name it. It's a great resource if you haven't heard of it. And we can put a link to the actual Work Money in a little bit too. But they're one of our key sponsors and partners for this campaign this month. because of the ability to get a personalized one-on-one conversation about the upgrades and savings. So you as a tabler, you as the person doing outreach, you as the person having a conversation, do not need to feel the pressure of having to know everything about all the incentives. And even some of the information that they give, especially on home weatherization, is tailored to the state where you're at too. So you don't have to be the expert. You can let work money come in after you have that first opening dialogue. And that's why we're really excited to feature their great work and be able to provide that resource as part of our campaign here tonight. And just as an example of what you can expect if you do the text approach, I actually had the chance to talk to them for over half an hour too, and just was kind of quizzing them on what kind of information they had on a variety of settings here. This is the follow-up text thread that we had. You can see not only do they help highlight weatherization as a first step to really thinking about making things efficient, but then going into all of the savings and incentives available for AC and heating, other electrification. They highlight again the Rewiring America homeowner calculator. They have energy assistance through LIHEAP as a resource again as well, a solar calculator, EV resources, and then additional pages on work money that you can explore even further. So all that to be said, what we're driving to with our tabling signs and handouts is this work money handout number. So you can call or text for details 833-975-6639 and have that expertise on available demand for you and your volunteers and your community members to find out more about. So that's like the big tabling sign that we have that you can put up in like a plastic play card. You also have the chance, we have several handouts in both full page as well as quarter sheet handouts. So one of them, again, is this idea of just routing people to our Electrification Month main campaign page, which I'll debut in just a little bit. And then you can also see we have this great incentive that walks through all of the rooms in your house that might be available, from the garage with EVs to your utility room with heat pump water heater or heating and cooling, to solar panels to induction stoves, what's available and how you can find out more, including work money's number there as well. And then we also have some great slides. So if you are more of a presenter, if you give presentations in person or online, or even when I just have this as your computer or desktop background for the month, we've got a couple of great slide designs, this one as well as this one. One again emphasizing the work money call number, and the other pointing to our campaign page. So before anything else, I'm actually just going to jump out here and you can see our campaign page. And I'll just put this in the chat so you can follow along at home. But here it is. The great thing about it is that, similar to our Climate Conversations campaign for Earth Month, at the very top with the header is a tracker where you, as a CCL member or as a non-logged in user, if you're doing outreach to people that aren't yet volunteers, can automatically help us get to our 3,000 goal conversations by logging the number of conversations you have. And then if you do, we've got that hooked up and we'll have basically a link to a feedback form, which I'll debut again in a little bit after you have that conversation to help us learn. And then below that, we have kind of the overview of a lot of the main reasons on why we're having this campaign, similar to what we've already talked about with why talking about electrification matters. And then again, we remind people about those 3 reasons to electrify that we're going to be focusing on thematically: safety, performance, and affordability. We then point people towards work money, the amazing work our electrification action team is doing, and the tabling resources that we have available that I'm highlighting right now. We talk about some of the recommendations with conversation starters. We've already modeled a lot of these. And again, the areas that we're really focusing on steering away from are words like ban or get rid of when using referencing fossil fuel appliances. We also want to make sure to do this in bite-sized chunks, right? Not a full home remodel, but starting with what the person that you're talking to, the homeowner, the renter, you name it, is interested with their first appliance swap. What are they most interested in trying out and dabbling into, experiment with first? And then lastly, this is hard for a lot of us, obviously, that come to this by way of climate change, but we're really leaning into having climate change be something that's woven in later. We're not going to lead with climate change, the environment, in these conversations. We want to emphasize first those key themes of safety, affordability, and performance, and then let the conversation evolve as it makes sense to climate change. And then lastly, again, as I've already highlighted, some of the benefits behind work money, this is available on both the hotline as well as their website here on that campaign page. So I wanted to make sure to highlight that those were available, and thanks for all the great connections in the chat, emphasizing that. Let's talk about a couple of other fun things. So this is one, I'll actually get to the origin story in just a moment, but that we're really excited about. We have a two-dimensional dollhouse that demonstrates all of the electrification that's available for your home, room by room, benefit by benefit. So again, what you can do is you can print the pages that are available on the resource page on 8.5 11 by 11 letter size paper, cut them out, and then you yourself can get whatever dimensional form board, cardboard, you name it, something that you're about to recycle, make it look good, but have fun with the design. Try to keep it, interactive as you're doing this. And then with a pencil, you can draw out this dimensional line up to 9 inches. You can, use a hot glue gun if you want to kind of help mount things, and then basically glue your way through from the heat pump through the rest of the layout. You actually can see each of these labels. You can play games. You could put the labels with a little Velcro patch to have this be something that's interactive or reusable, or magnets, you name it. There's a lot of ways that you can do that, or you can just kind of mount it right there. And ultimately, this becomes a dimensional display on all of the benefits that come from home electrification. We're really excited about it. Here's all of the different cutouts you can see again that are available with the printout. And here's what it looks like when you put it all together. Here's one great example of a volunteer that has kind of assembled this at home from printed out paper. Again, really low key, low budget, but again, a great way. And we have a color version too. So depending on how much you want to put into it. And the biggest thing that I'd like to just highlight with this dollhouse, and shout out to Sean Dagg for helping us make sure that this is something where we give credit where credit is due, is that the origin story of the electrification dollhouse is from our CCL volunteer in New York, Elizabeth Strum. I don't know if you're on here tonight, Elizabeth, but thank you for the inspiration. Sean posted this 2 years ago in our forums. Here's Elizabeth's design, with these helpful little labels room by room, and an actual three-dimensional design that we knew was maybe going to be hard to replicate across the country. But if you have a dollhouse at home or want to get even more creative with your own home display, that's also a great available option if you want to take it to the third dimension. And just a shout out to Elizabeth for your great design. This is, I think, a wonderful proof and concept about how when we say that we are grassroots driven, we mean it. We know that you are innovating and doing the most amazing things in the field, and we learn and replicate and iterate on that across the country. So keep up the great work that each of you are bringing to your creative outreach. I love that example that Pete already shared in the chat about the induction stove demonstration, and keep sharing those so that we can learn from them and bake them into future campaigns here too. All right, so for additional support, I wanted to make sure that people knew outside of tonight, this is kind of my last section, and then we'll jump into Q&A here, that we have more trainings available, and we've already had training. So let's talk about what is coming up first, and then what we've already done. Next Thursday on our CCL training program, Dana Nucitelli, our research coordinator, is going to join us and give an update to the homeowner electrification benefits training that he does. He goes appliance by appliance, program by program from the Inflation Reduction Act, and he's going to have the updated numbers on what state rebate programs are available or where they're at in that process of being approved. So if you really want to get more into the nuts and bolts of what is available for you and your locale, I'm going to steer you towards next Thursday night, same channel, same time. I'm going to do my best to help tonight if you can't make it, but know that that's going to be much more in depth than what we'll get to tonight. Then on the 8th of August, in 2 Thursdays, we're going to have an Ask Me Anything, otherwise known as an AMA, with homeowners that have electrified. And this is a great opportunity, especially if you have people in your life that, maybe you've never even really shared much about your CCL involvement, but you think would be interested in just knowing about electrification and hearing from real life people that have already gone through it, the pluses, the minuses, the barriers that they didn't anticipate, the amazing things that they've discovered now after having installed that. Really will steer people towards that webinar on the 8th. And then our Saturday call for August, that national call on the second Saturday, is going to be with our partner for this campaign as well, Rewiring America. A lot of you are familiar with the amazing work that Rewiring America does. They've had a savings calculator from the Inflation Reduction Act for, basically, weeks after launch, even maybe even days. And we featured that with our outreach the last couple of years. they've done a lot of great updates now, making sure for states that have rebates to build those into the calculator so that's even more accurate with their estimations on cost savings. And then at the end of the month, we're also going to have the chance to feature the amazing work that our youth team is doing. Our School Electrification Challenge, if you're not aware of it, is in round 2 of recruitment. They're recruiting throughout this summer, different schools throughout the country. We just gave an award to the top 3 performing schools that helped move things along and helped electrify their districts this last year. And if you'd like to find out more on that front, you can join the training that we're going to have live on the 29th of August. But you also are welcome right now. I'll just put a link to this in the chat where you can have the chance to check out their website. And I'm anticipating a couple of the questions here that are available already in the Q&A. So this is great. And yeah, I'll just share really quick, since we're also entering this here locally in our Duluth area for the year ahead, just what a wonderful job the youth team has done in putting this together. A huge shout out to Sharon and the whole team in making electrification fun, empowering students to realize they can make a difference, and already having a real impact in school districts across the country right now. So if this is something that you're just hearing about or you're interested in having as another outreach for your chapter in the year ahead, it's not too late to sign up, and we're really excited about another way to electrify with your school districts, because there's great incentives through the Inflation Reduction Act for schools now too, much more than there ever was beforehand. And this resource helps you understand what that looks like. All right, so I want to make sure, especially, to give out a huge shout out to our Electrification Action team. They have done an amazing job throughout the month of July already in putting on a series of webinars that you can see here in the chat and also on the slide. I know, looking around the room, many of you have attended or helped lead and make these possible. If you haven't yet checked them out and you're interested in finding out more, this has just been the perfect pairing for the electrification team, getting us ready for the month. And they've covered tabling and some great ideas. If you'd like repeat suggestions in the chat, they've covered how you can use Rewiring America and some other tools to create your own personal electrification plan. We've had Steffi highlighting the important work that you can do with grass tops outreach to local governments, creating climate plans and other incentives to open up conversations in purple and red districts that might not already be engaged in a lot of this planning. And then obviously next week, we'll have the chance to learn from how people have induction meal parties, electrification home tours, you name it. That's next Monday night. The link to find out more is in the chat. And we'd absolutely love to make sure to just highlight those resources. Here's one of the ones that already happened on tabling here featured. The last thing I'll share here, and I know that a couple of you have already engaged on this as well, but if you're hearing about this for the first time tonight, that's totally fine. We are also partnering with Rewiring America. We'll have more details in the next couple of days. That's why we're encouraging people that are interested in being featured to submit their electrification story via the form and the link I just put in the chat. And it's also available in the notes for those listening on later at home in the speaker notes of the slide. We would love to feature your story. If you've electrified in your home, an appliance, your energy source, your vehicle, there's a chance for you to do what the Rewiring America team has come up with ingeniously. Rather than having some team of VIPs cut a ribbon in front of a new business in downtown, let's bring that party to your own front porch and have the chance to celebrate the 2-year anniversary of the Inflation Reduction Act by making a media splash with ribbon cutting at your own home to celebrate the installation of a solar water heat pump. You name it. If you've got something that you'd like to highlight and build up a media packet around, they're just in the process of working with Flannery, and that should be live by the time August hits the calendar. So this is just a little preview on that, and you can get in on the ground floor here by submitting your story in that Google form if you haven't already, or if you know people in your chapter that have or are thinking about even yet or about to install, feel free to share that as well. And the last thing that I wanted to share is, yes, there will be social media throughout the month as well. What we're doing is encouraging the following 3 recommendations. Number 1, you can share CCL's post. This is a great example of the Alameda chapter in California already getting out and making sure to educate their community about Electrification Month coming up. We're recommending hashtags It's Electric and Electrification Month. Please feel free with your team to tag CCL and then make sure to include any of these hashtags with conversations that you're having. Take photos, have fun, just really make sure to, highlight that this is something that's happening across the country. It's an electrifying experience that we really want to make sure is accessible, and really amplify whatever is happening in other chapters too. So you can keep a lookout for who's already posting and give them some love by resharing and giving them likes too. And then lastly, if you're not social media savvy, or you just would rather do it an old school way, I guess as old school as emailing is, feel free. You can also email marketing@citizensclimate.org any of your group photos in these conversations throughout the electrification campaign. To remind you again to log your conversations and help your group know that you can go to our main campaign page. We'll have it linked from the drop-down menu. You can also go to cclusa.org/its-electric. Again, this is going to work for both logged in and logged out users. So you don't have to be a CCLer to participate and get credit for having a conversation. And all conversations matter. So we also want to learn from what's working. Just like we did with the Climate Conversations campaign, if you have a conversation and you would like to make sure to be able to share your feedback on how it worked or how it didn't work, here's a link to that in the chat. We've got it live and set up, and we'll make sure that it's showing up on the landing page after you log in action for the campaign period. And we'd love to just like we did with the Conversations campaign, learn from what's working well from you. We're going to have fun kind of highlighting the results and also building out better resources in the future as we iterate and hear back what you liked or what you think we can even improve on. And then lastly, again, just continue to enjoy the amazing electrification work. I put a link in the chat already where you can find out about the upcoming calls. You can also please just engage in forum discussion with electrification experts around the country and passionate volunteers that are really diving into this in their own communities. They frequently share great ideas. They have wonderful events to attend. Can't recommend them enough. And just to give a big shout out again tonight to our electrification action team and the leaders that make those webinars possible for having attended tonight's training and help us demonstrate the power and reach of our training programs. You can also, just as a reminder, you can also log any of your trainings. If you're taking this asynchronously, if you're joining us later, just click on the bottom of any of our training pages, log your training, or go to our action tracker under the chapter and volunteer development lever, click training, type in the training name, and from there you'll get credit. So again, campaign page and email for feedback. We are so grateful for all the work that all of you have already put into making this happen. I can't wait to hear stories in future chapters throughout the country having electrifying conversations in the month ahead.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Citizens Climate Lobby's training program. You can tune into more episodes anywhere podcasts are available. Inspired by what you heard today? Join Citizens Climate Lobby to advocate for bipartisan climate solutions. Go to community.citizensclimate.org to find more trainings, resources, your local chapter, national action teams, discussion forums, and more. Be sure to like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and Instagram @CitizensClimate. We also invite all of our listeners to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more inspiration.
Like what you hear? Recommend us to your friends and make sure to give us a 5-star rating. It helps us show up on other listeners' feeds. Feel free to pass on any suggestions for future episodes in the comments as well.
And together, we are creating the political will for a livable world.